Thanks. All right, now we're on our way.
Was expecting to do that because she wasn't 100% certain if I would get here on time.
See this. Okay. I don't think we need to do the Spanish instructions, Tanya. Don't think there's a need. Should we do it just cause? No.
If you want me to, because for the recording you won't need it. If you don't have anybody, there's no need for it.
But we do need to turn it on so that Anna can go in and record your channel. So we'll go ahead and initiate that. Thank you. Even though you're going to just kind of talk to yourself for a little while. Appreciate it. Okay, cool. Now everyone can jump into English. I think we're all pretty experienced in that. The interpretation has been turned on. We don't have anyone using the Spanish channel, but we will record all of this and put it up later. And oh yay, Estella's here. Cool, cool, cool. Tanya and Estella can chat. Perfect. So go ahead.
Buenos días a todos.
Yeah. Hola. Right. Okay, would you go ahead and do that then, Tanya, now that we do need it?
Sí, ya la escucho.
Perfect. Don't have to. Estella has done this a time or two. Yay, welcome, Estella.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Leland. Okay, I think we've got enough folks to start with quick introductions. I know that you recognize the blue backgrounds. We've got a lot of our team here with good information today. So if you're with the Air District, raise your hand. There we all are. Hi, team. And then we'll jump to, who else do we have here? Oh, everybody's cameras are off. Jennifer.
Information about our service.
Hi, this is Jennifer from CARB.
Doctors and patients.
Jennifer. Genevieve. Oh, you're on mute.
Hi, everyone. Genevieve, community resident.
Awesome. David.
Morning, everyone. This is David Padilla with Caltrans.
Good morning. Katie.
Hi, everyone. I'm with the UC Davis AB17 research team. So just here to observe. Thanks.
Awesome. Welcome. I saw Naomi there for a second. Hopefully she's still close. Estella, good morning. Estella is one of our Spanish-speaking residents and a very active member of our CSC. Hello. All right, I think that's everyone. If we haven't talked to you, unmute now.
I'm just adding myself. This is Megan McKay from the California Air Resources Board from the Monitoring Laboratory Division.
Awesome. Thank you, Megan. That was perfect timing.
This is Cole Hutton with the district. I'm just supporting some teammates here today, listening in.
And you are with the air quality analysis team.
Yes, I am.
Yeah. Okay, I think we're ready, Jamie.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone. You are at the Air Quality Monitoring and Outreach Subcommittee meeting for the Fresno AB 617 program. Really, we have kind of two sides of the coin that we're going to talk about today. We're going to start talking about the outreach that's been going on specifically to two categories. One is schools that have monitoring equipment on their sites. The second is to schools in the AB 617 area. And then we'll come around and talk about what some of that monitoring data is saying. And we are bringing up some of our folks. And so we have two of our presenters today. One will be very familiar to all of you. Zong has worked with the AB 617 program for quite a while. She's on the outreach team. And after Zong goes, then we'll have Madison Perkins, who comes in, and she's one of our senior air quality analysis specialists. Is it specialist? Is that your title, Madison? I think so. I don't remember, but she can introduce herself when we get to her. But Zong, Naiming.
Thank you, Jamie. I don't want to interrupt the flow of the meeting, but I just want to raise a point. I think we need to go back to having these meetings at a later time. I know Lilia wasn't able to join. I know Isabel wasn't able to join. And I had a meeting with several parents that would have wanted to join, and it's not possible at 11 a.m. So can we go back and the thing is that even the doodle poll is just having options during the morning. So that has to change. That has to go back to our practice of meeting in the afternoons to make this more accessible for our residents. So just want to
and I mean, we agree 100%. One of the things we're trying to do is to bring some additional staff up to be able to kind of run these meetings, because what we're finding is that those of us that have been kind of running these meetings, and I mean, your schedule, I'm sure, is even worse than ours because of all the stuff you have going on, but finding times when, John Klaas and myself, Heather Chai, can make these meetings ends up being at these other times. And we actually had Madi reach out directly to Lilia today to talk about that. So our hope is to get a little bit more depth so that when we do maybe have two meetings going on at the same time, maybe a Stockton meeting or an Arvin meeting or a Fresno meeting, we can divide and conquer. So we hear you, that's our goal, and we'll begin to do that. Thank you for the comment. And if you talk to folks, like I said, Madi talked to Lilia this morning, but please pass on to the parents kind of our apologies for that. Also, and I'm hoping, thinking in the back of your mind, we'll be asking if one of our folks can give an update on what happens at this meeting at the regular steering committee meeting. So be on the lookout for that as well. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Zong to tell you about some of the outreach we've been doing and what she's learning.
Thanks so much, Jamie. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Can you guys see my screen okay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Although now I see two different screens on my screen. So sorry if it gets a little crazy on my side. So here you're looking at the main AB 617 screen here with all the communities, and I just wanted to share where anyone really can look at the air monitoring for Fresno. So you can just click here on this main link, and from here you'll be able to see the different monitors and shift it over a little bit and see all the schools that have monitors right now. And so the light blue are.
Hey, Zong, we're still seeing the main page of the AB 617 website.
Oh, sorry. Let me switch.
There we go.
Let me apologize. There it is. Okay, can you guys see?
Now we're good.
Okay, sorry. Let me go back one. So here's the main page, and you can click here on the community air monitoring tab here button. From there, you'll get a screen with a map of all the schools, and you can move it over. And the light blue are where you'll see the schools, in this case, that have the monitor. So that includes Malaga, West Fresno, Edison, and then the purple are the regulatory. So just wanted to show that, and I believe our team, Madison, will probably go a little bit more in depth on the different readings once you can click on, if you click on the different schools here. So I definitely wanted to share that. And then since our last meeting, we've been in contact with all the schools. We made multiple phone calls to the principal at all the schools, as well as emails. Some of the principals have responded, in particular Roosevelt High School. The principal let us know that he plans to share information about the monitor at their school and the link to their staff in their staff newsletter. I'm working with the team, I believe they're the liaisons at Roosevelt, hoping to see if I can do presentations to parents. In the past, I worked with the parent center at Roosevelt, but since the pandemic, then it's closed down. And so, so trying to reconnect with all the schools in that capacity so that we can go back and do some presentations. But I think a lot of the schools are also in that in-between mode between, still doing, some of them are not doing any parent or coffee hours at the moment. Some of them are, some are doing Zoom. Others are, I haven't come across any yet that are doing in person, but if you hear of any, please let me know. Our team is always welcome and excited to go out and do presentations to parents. In our requests and communications with the principals, we've also let them know that we love to come out and do provide tables at back to school night or festivals or carnivals or sporting events. So we did share that information to let them know that, hey, send us the flyers, the newsletter, and we'll see what we can work out in, tabling those events. We've also reached out at the district level to Fresno Unified and Central, and tried to also connect with them in terms of getting the word out to the parents that way, and we're hoping that we can also get we're working on a flyer to put onto Peach Jar, and I'll share that shortly here, and we'll love to get feedback on the flyer, but that's another avenue that we're hoping to connect to both the parents, the staff, and students, especially at the high school level, so that they know where to go to access the information. We've also been in contact with Parent University as well, hoping to connect with parents through Parent University that is connected with Fresno Unified. They have a couple of their staff that work with the different high school campuses. So those are some of the avenues that we've tried to connect with the different schools that have monitors on their school sites. And if anyone here on the CSC has any other contacts that we haven't connected with, or that you would like to share, please drop it in the chat or raise your hand, or share it with AB 617. Go ahead, Naimi.
Thank you, Son, for doing that. I know it takes a lot of time to go out there, all these very busy principals. But just to clarify, so right now you have focused on contacting the principals of the schools where there are AB 617 monitors, correct? For both the principals, and then if there are like other liaisons that we have already connected with, then yes. So, but only those 10 or whatever 8 schools, because I think 2 are not in schools, like Bitwise and the other one.
Correct.
Right?
Right.
Okay. Thank you. And maybe I wait until you finish your presentation, then I have some reactions from, again, not us. And Estela was in that meeting of some of what we heard from community members who live in the area in terms of how to make this communication, more efficient.
Okay, please, yes, please share. Okay, from here, I'm going to share the flyer. This is just a draft. This is something that we created. And again, we'd love to get some feedback. This flyer is available. It's been posted on the meeting for today. So you can always download it as well. Let me share my screen. Okay. So from here, can you guys see my screen? I'm going to the subcommittees page. And from here, you go to the air monitoring outreach. And for today's meeting, the bilingual outreach flyer. Can you guys see the flyer on my screen? Okay, perfect. Okay, so this is the draft that has been created. And this is just general information about AB 617 in the Fresno boundary, talking about the different grants that are available for the residents in this AB 617. And then below it talks a little bit more about the community air monitoring and the link where they can find the information that is on the other page that I shared earlier. So this is the flyer. Below is the Spanish that has already been translated, but we're hoping to also create one that will be also in Hmong, so that we can send all 3 languages out through Peach Jar to all the schools and this would go out to all the schools that are in the AB 617, not just the schools that have the air monitor. So that's the current plan for this flyer. And from there, did anyone have any questions or feedback on the flyer?
Yeah, I would say that it would help to include a screenshot of the AB 617 boundaries. So I don't think that beyond us that have been working so in depth in this, most people would know what those boundaries are.
Got it. I think that's definitely doable. Any other suggestions or thoughts?
I had some thoughts just to point out. I know, Naimeen, you had mentioned earlier in the past, we've talked through sort of all the adaptations of what people are able to use, right? Scan a QR code doesn't mean anything to some. So we recognize that. And I just want to point that out, that this is just one of sort of multiple efforts to try and engage at the various ways people do engage. If somebody did either type in that URL at the top of the screen or scan the code and get to that page, what it's dumping them into, just for your comment too. Yes, we need the boundary map, I think, on the flyer itself, just as a general impression of the space we're talking about. But the cool part is if somebody did scan the QR code, it takes them to a website where we're telling them the basics, showing them the boundary map so they can check, and asking them if they'd share their information with us so we can give them updates in the future. Not sure folks will actually engage and take that step and share their information, but it's a little further ask, hopefully, once we get this in front of students and parents at schools.
If you don't mind, I always, try to kind of like, even with my own flyers, I try to run them by the target community, because they could see things that I don't see anymore, or staff. So if you don't mind, I would like to share it. And I know Estelle is here, but I think I would like to share it with other community members,
please.
like parents.
Absolutely.
Even right now I'm working with groups with students at the Center for Advanced Research and Technology, and one of the students goes to Roosevelt. So probably they might have additional feedback to provide.
Perfect.
So I'll do that as soon as I receive it. And that was a recommendation song. I think that it would be great to connect with CART, especially the Environmental Science Lab, because they have students from AB 617 area.
Okay, that sounds good. Naimeen, you mentioned earlier that you had talked to a group of parents. Did they have any other recommendations or thoughts?
Yeah, and I was saying that I think Estella is back and Isabel is here, so I'll let them chime in because they were in that meeting. But I took some notes, and I think it's very, how can I put it? I mean, it could become overwhelming because it's really how we're connecting all the dots together. So in addition to specific recommendations of how we, or how all of us can make this information more accessible to the schools, to the parents, to the school, staff and all that. So one of the recommendations was that, this information should not, and that's why my question about, are you only right now targeting the schools where the monitors are, which is a good start. But I think that the idea would be to go above and beyond and target all the schools in the area, right? So for example, we were showing the parents that we met with the website, right? And they had no clue that, for example, they were parents from Leavenworth. And they were like, oh, okay, so it makes more sense for me to check the Yosemite monitor because that's the closest school to where my kids go. So even though my kids school don't have a monitor, I see that is a good proxy, right? So that was the first recommendation. This information should be available to all schools in the AB 617 area, not only the ones that have the monitors. And they gave some specific things like, I think that maybe having one of the things is like they were saying, okay, like why don't we solicit more feedback from either the parents and the students at a time where it's convenient. So having some sort of like a community meeting or focus group, whatever you want to call it, and it could be virtual, obviously, but in the evening, so they can participate and give you more feedback. That was one specific recommendation. The other one is like, maybe you can also go and have do a little survey or little, something in those schools in the area and ask people like parents as they're picking up their kids or they're dropping their kids, what would be the best way for us to give you this information about these monitors? So that way the strategies that are developed are based on feedback from these targeted communities. But in general, one of the main questions they have is, so if parents and students can access the information, that's a good first step. But right now they don't understand what is the role of, these are the two questions. What is the role of the air district to help the schools, not only understand their quality, but actually do changes in the activities, the recess and all that to mitigate exposure for children. And what is the role of the schools? So right now, for instance, an example that they gave is like, it was very clear when it was only flags, because they would see the green flag, the yellow flag. So they wanted to know why they stopped using the flags, what replaced the flags. And right now, especially one mother that had been trying to understand how the communication flows, she has been calling the air district several times and the school district, and she thinks there's a lot of disconnection. Like, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, that's what we're trying to understand, that when their quality is bad, that their district gives the information to someone at the school district, and then that someone at the school district is supposed to pass on the information to the schools, but that is not happening. So can the communication go straight from the air district to the schools so that you remove that middle portion of school administrators at the school district level, not knowing what to do with information? And secondly, can the information that is communicated to them be based on these monitors? So not on the regulatory monitors, because there's more monitors now that are closer to the schools. So those were more like big picture questions that the parents have. And as I said, Isabel and Estela were there. So Isabel, Estela, algo que se me olvidó de la plática.
Bueno.
Sí,
Hello?
Estela.
Just as a quick reminder, drop into the English translation and you'll get simultaneous translation if you're an English speaker and you aren't already there. Isabel, go right ahead.
Bueno. No escuché la pregunta.
Sí, había algo más de lo que discutimos.
If there's anything else that we were talking about the meeting that, I don't know, Isabel or Stella. Oh, okay. Well, the same, that I think that is a little complicated to be looking for the information and go to the web pages on the internet. So I think for me, it'll be easier if they can put it automatically through messages And for me, I think it's easier to get the information that way because I'm very bad when it comes to be looking the notifications when the way that you're putting them on the district air district page, it is very complicated for me to log in on that page. So for me, it'll be easier to get the information that way, maybe through text messages.
Estela?
Sí.
I think we have some issues with the sound. They haven't been sending information of the red flag. They haven't been sending that information. I'm sorry, it's hard to understand. I think we lost her. Maybe her connection is not good.
And I was having a hard time understanding. Okay, when she comes back, we can get her input, but that's in general, you know, like big questions and some specific recommendations.
Great, I appreciate that. And we'll continue to see if we can check back. Other questions, comments, recommendations?
Jamie, can you clarify that big question? So since why did the flag stop? How's the communication happening right now? I know it was a little bit more familiar when you know Asma was running the house. So what's the name of the program? Now it's in house. So can you explain how that communication goes and if it's doable that you guys can straight send information to the schools rather than the administrators?
Yes, so several years ago, going back, goodness, about 12 years ago, we received a lot of comments from schools that the flag program was not as accurate as it needed to be to protect student health. The reason for that is the flag program was based on us sending an email to schools, usually about 4 o'clock on a Wednesday, with a forecasted quote unquote flag color based on what we expected the air quality, the worst air quality to be at that school the next day. Schools would get that email, and then on Thursday morning, they would raise a colored flag based on what that email said. The problem with the flag system is that while we do our best to try to make sure our forecast is accurate, air quality can change significantly during the course of a day. It can also change from Wednesday to Thursday. What we thought would happen Wednesday afternoon may not actually happen on Thursday. So for example, let's say we think we have poor air quality in place, and on Wednesday, we say, you know what, we're going to have a weather system come through Wednesday night, and it's going to clean up air quality. We think that flag, instead of being orange like it was today, we think tomorrow it's going to be green. So we send that email on Wednesday evening, and then on Thursday, the school raises that green flag, and lo and behold, that weather system doesn't come through and air quality is unhealthy and kids have been sent out. The other side of that coin is, even if we have a day when air quality is, say, unhealthy for sensitive groups, and it is in the orange category, even when that forecast is accurate, in a typical summer day, if we have a forecast of unhealthy air quality for sensitive groups, a typical ozone day where we don't have wildfire impacts, we're going to see the morning hours be relatively clean for air quality. during a typical summer day, we see ozone peak from about 2 o'clock to about 7 o'clock. So activities in the morning for a school could be perfectly okay. Air quality could be good in the morning, but in the afternoon could deteriorate to unhealthy. So we received requests from schools to look into this, and that had us develop the real-time air advisory network. And it allows us to put out information to anyone who signs up. Right now it can go to anyone. Right now, the AB 617 monitors are not a part of that system, but anyone can sign up right now. And when air quality changes from 1 hour to the next, and it is about an hour behind, but it does allow you to see trends that are occurring in air quality much more clearly than a daily forecast. You'll get an email or a text message that says at location X, the air quality has moved, depending on the settings that you have. We also have an app that conveys that same information. And I do know that there has been meetings with our IT team, and I did not go to that meeting yesterday. Did anyone go to that meeting yesterday? I don't know. I know the biggest issue, and I've said this before, that our entire RAN system is held together with love and duct tape, is the joke I make. It is a very old system, and making changes to it based on the server it sits on, some security issues that we have with how the system was designed, that adding new sites is not as simple as just going in and putting in a few hours of work to add new sites. There's a potential of having to rebuild the entire thing to put in new sites, which we're looking at. But that rebuilding the entire thing is hundreds, if not thousands of hours of work. So we are looking at it. It is something that's on our radar based on the feedback of this group. And you know, we will continue to update on it. Again, I don't know if anyone was at that meeting, but that's where we are right now. Naimeen, I see your hand raised.
Yeah, quick question and you know, well, two questions. So right now, your staff that runs that in-house program of communicating better quality, I understand, and it's true about the limitations of the flags. I totally understand, but you know, who is notified within the air school districts when their quality is going to be bad? You know, based on RAN right now.
It varies from school to school. Actually, Zong, you can handle this.
Hi, Naimeen. Right now, all this, we have what in-house what we call a school tracker. And so all the schools, both public and private through the 8 counties, are included in the school tracker from K to 12. And so for Fresno Unified, or for Fresno County in particular, all the principals are listed, and they should be getting all the, when we send out emails to alert schools about like a wildfire impact or anything like that, wind dust event, they're going to all the primary contacts on the list. So all the principals should be getting, as well as anyone that has been designated as the primary contact person for air quality. So it may be the nurse or the athletic director, as well as usually there's also a district person. So for Fresno Unified in particular, it's the district person that also gets those notifications.
So that principals are receiving this directly.
Yes, they should be. Yeah, the tricky part is that what we've learned is that the principal might change, and so that might be the only thing that we need to constantly update, is making sure that the principal or their contact person, you know, especially during the pandemic, you know, staff has changed, and so otherwise, then they should be getting the email notifications that we send out.
Could it be possible that, again, when you send at least to those principals of schools in the AB 617 area, then you not only notify them about RAN, but I understand the point that RAN cannot be fixed fast enough, and the AB 617 monitors are not going to be added anytime soon to RAN. So can that email include not only the RAN information, but the information about the air quality in the monitors in the AB 617 area that are closer to those schools? Could that be possible? I mean, it's just an email. It's just customizing that email to the schools within the AB 617 area.
We can look into that. I think it might be possible. The challenge is it's all automated. So knowing, which school to send the email with the AB 617 information in it, we'll have to look, because that will have to be automatically populated into the email just for those schools, because but we can definitely look at it.
Yeah, because again, I think goes back to the point that the parent was making, right? Why would she be checking the central monitor that is in RAN as the closest when there's a monitor in Yosemite, middle school that's more accurate, the readings to her kid that has asthma.
Yeah, I agree. I'm almost thinking we could, we'll talk about that. Sometimes I talk about things and I don't know what I'm talking about. So before I say we could almost, I need to talk to our IT team. Other questions or comments? I want to give Isabel or Estela an opportunity as well.
Estela, ¿puede decir lo que estaba diciendo porque se estaba cortando mucho?
Can you say what you were saying, because your voice was being cut off when you were speaking? Yeah, what I was saying was that in schools, they haven't been receiving the information on how the air is. They have to be looking and go on Google and look for information to see how the air quality is, because they don't have the information. Yesterday, when I went to the office and asked, the person from the office wasn't able to find the information on how the air quality was. So I think that they should have something that's faster, and we have more access to that. The parents, the teachers, or the principals, that we have the way that's easy to see how the information of the air quality is, because we're navigating a lot to be able to know how the quality of the air is. So something that will be easier for us, so we can know that information and to see how the pollution is. It is important in schools because the kids come out and the air is dirty. So I think for me, it is important that the schools will have that.
Yeah. Jamie, I have a question. I remember years ago, there was kind of like a lighting structure that changed color based on the air quality. And that was going to be shared to different schools. So there would actually, I think what we're all missing is that visual understanding, the instant, immediate, for all to see, that everyone so loved about the FLAG program. And that was potentially going to be replaced with this structure with a light on it that changed colors. Has that gone anywhere? What's the status of that project?
We actually acronyms, we are bad about acronyms. So we have those, we call them the READs, the real-time electronic air quality displays. And we do have schools that have them. Zong, I don't know if you know of any in this area that has them, but they're up and running.
Vang Pao Elementary.
Yeah, Vang Pao Elementary has one up, and it's I just checked on it last week and it's up and running. So it automatically updates and pulls data. So
and is it that in like a very public place, like outside the school, right when you walk in the school?
It's by the entryway. So it's actually facing out from the library, the media room, facing towards the students and the public, the visitors that are coming to campus.
Are there plans to add those in at least all the 617 schools or all the schools in the region?
Yes, we have, as we're doing outreach to the schools, we are talking to them about if we can get a read up and running in all of the Valley schools. Our hope is that in some of these schools, they already have a monitor that can be used, and we actually have a URL that we can give them that actually, and well, this meeting's being recorded, but I'm wondering if that URL, let's make a note. Can the URL go to the AB617 monitor?
Literally just type that note, Jamie.
Okay.
Literally just type that note.
Because
Yeah.
the URL is a little bit separate from the system built on, love and duct tape. And so we need to talk to our IT team about that. But we've got, just from we've got 1,300 plus schools in the Valley. And from a cost assessment decision, we want to encourage schools, if they already have a piece of technology that is maybe running, the cafeteria menu, or it's maybe running the notes. Some schools do have those in prominent areas that kind of scroll through for students. Air quality can be one piece of that. If they don't, then we do have the monitors available that they can put kind of front and center in hopefully a visible place. We did look into actual signage. It's kind of always on our radar, but that was getting into the hundreds of thousands of dollars to do like how some schools have like the digital signs that say, spring break, March, whatever. We looked into air quality signs like that. And then we also looked into using those digital signs as a way to port air quality into. The way the current system is run, we can't port it in, and the big signs were a little too costly at the current time. We do have on our radar, because while we're focusing specifically on our AB617 communities, really as we re-engage schools kind of post-pandemic, we will be opening this conversation up and engaging some of our advocate partners and others about this issue in a bigger scale. It is super confusing. You can open your phone and look at the weather and get air quality. Air Now, I'm happy to say they're working on a Spanish version, and Juan Luis, who is here, and Marcela on my team are working with the EPA on launching a Spanish version of Air Now. I know CCEJN and CCAC, there's SJ Air that a lot of people use. It is becoming, I think, more ubiquitous. There's a lot more options, but I think in having a lot more options, it's more and more confusing. So we have kind of a goal in the next 12 to 18 months to begin that conversation of, how can we help make sure people have accurate information, but make it less confusing.
And I think that was one of the points that one of the parents made yesterday, right? That she's like, I know that there's all these places that I can go and check, but how do I know which ones are, accurate, that I can rely? So, she's like, if I would have to choose from all these forms, knowing that the air district is the entity that, regulates air quality and that public health is in their mission, I'm going to trust them over any other app that I see that I don't know where the information is coming from. So with that in mind, I think that yes, there's a lot of ways in which you can get information, but making sure that it's accurate and reliable and all that. And that's why I think that definitely the role of making information easily accessible, like through the read and other things, is important. Oh, there you go. I've seen it, and that would be great. Why don't we start with at least that for all the AB617 schools? And not only in Fresno, I'm going to speak now about chapter and the other communities, right? I mean, that should be probably the only thing is, like, if I'm a parent that I know we're getting into picky things, but if I'm a parent that I'm just dropping my kid at school, I will see the marquee outside, but I might not see that thing because I'm not in the office.
Yeah,
So
we agree.
probably, and I know that the Marquee had some sort of difficulties because they have different systems,
Right.
but you know, a little thing outside next to the Marquee, if possible, that every parent that is driving their kid to school, dropping them, can see easily. Or even if I'm just not a parent, but I'm a person walking by the school, I can see it.
Right. Or like bring back the flag system, but base it off the real-time information. I know that would require a staff person to actually stay on top of that. So that
we
would
have
be helpful.
1 or 2 schools who
They'll
do
do it.
that. Yeah. Most say we're too busy, too much going on.
Give it
What are
to honor a child
Yes.
to be in charge of it every week.
Right.
Yeah,
They
it's
would
like
be pleased.
now they put happy
Is that what they do at
birthdays.
camp?
You know, like happy birthday to blah blah blah. So it's like, you know, you got, I don't know.
Yeah. At camp, everyone was on flag duty.
Yeah.
So
just real quick, I want to give Madison some time, but I don't know if we've ever mentioned to this group, and I don't know how it works, but if you have your phone set up to be in Spanish, our app is in Spanish.
Yes.
I hope folks who
Yeah.
do know how to do that actually do it.
Right. The native language on the phone, the app would recognize that and present the information in Spanish.
So
Correct.
I think that some of the things that we could do, because I know we're getting a time, is that I think we could, you know, it's a long list. We could start with, you know, making, you know, clustering them in like, you know, things that are more doable because it wouldn't require, you know, like upgrading the RAN, and things that are more like short term, middle term, and long term. And then probably then running them by these larger community meetings that we can have, maybe 3 of them virtual, Southwest, Central, and Southeast, you know, not only among ourselves, but with parents and community members who live in these communities, just to vet these ideas by them and make sure that if all these efforts and investments are going to be made, that are really going to, you know, meet those needs. That's probably what I would suggest.
I like that idea, and I'm going to task Zong to putting together a short, middle, and long-term kind of action list with the hope that we can maybe do some of those community meetings here in the next month or so. With that, Madison, you have 10 minutes to give the presentation.
Perfect. Thank you so much, everybody. So, can everybody see the presentation?
Yes.
Perfect. And so John Clausen is actually going to get us started, and then I'm going to pick it up after him.
All right, thanks, Madison, and hey, everybody. I'll be quick with the background here, then I'll let Madison jump to what the air quality has been looking like in the South Central Fresno community the past few months. So if you can just go to the next slide. And next one, please. So just a reminder, this is the network design that we have for South Central Fresno. These are all the sites that the committee recommended. This is where we are operating, and we're continuing to operate at all of these sites. And we've talked about a lot of these schools already this morning. So we're continuing to collect data from all these locations. Next slide. Just a few pictures here, a reminder of the equipment that we're operating, some of the PM 2.5 equipment, the compact systems, the trailer on the right there, that's at Malaga Elementary. And here's a van that we can use for special projects and collecting data in some areas of interest. Next slide. And we're continuing to do speciation work of PM 2.5 and VOC in the community, and Madison will share a few details of that. And I'll kick it to her, and I just wanted to note as well that this is also posted on the website. So if you want to go back and read it in more detail, it's there for you to take a look at. And just real quick, the next slide, Madison. Just wanted to know, Zong showed this before, but on this interactive map, if you click on these different bubbles here, these colors, that'll open up a link that you can actually go to the data for that monitor and see what's going on in real time, or click back in time and see what's been happening the past few days. So I'll let Madison go ahead and talk about the air quality that we've been seeing the past few months.
Thank you so much. So this is our PM2.5 daily average comparison for the last few months across multiple different community sites as well as regulatory sites. And the majority of the data trends to be under that federal 24-hour PM2.5 standard. However, we do have a variety of concentrations and peaks that can be correlated to a variety of events, including wildfire and high pressure systems and fireworks. Both the community and the regulatory sites trend to align and compare really well here, but there are a few cases of outliers in the data, and we're going to go into that a little bit more here. So the majority of community monitors average fairly close to what we're seeing at a regulatory site, Fresno Garland, within about 4 to 6%. The two sites that are averaging higher recently are Edison and West Fresno. We have noticed these trends and we have plans for specific speciation evaluations at Edison in order to determine the cause for these elevated impacts. Just another example of how wildfires can affect PM2.5 is we could see that peak of the 197 at Roosevelt, which occurred on a day when there were wildfire impacts in the area. Overall, however, the averages of these sites are in the low to mid 20s and are once again well under that federal standard. We also have a few ozone measuring sites. We see the typical pattern of the higher ozone values during the summer months and lower during the winter. There are still clear indicators of high concentrations and peaks around the California wildfires last year, though the majority of values, once again, are well under that 8-hour ozone standard. These values do trend quite a bit closer than what we were seeing with PM2.5 in terms of how close they are to the regulatory monitor. All of these are within a 4% difference. And all of the averages are in the low 40s, which is once again well below the standard. During the vans or at the vans, we have multiple pollutants measured, including benzene, toluene, xylene, and quite a few others. On this chart, we compare the peak values to their most health protective standards, which for some of them are the chronic REL standards. The majority of these peak hourly values are under these standards. However, benzene and ozone have peaked over that standard since monitoring began. Both of these peak values are associated with wildfires burning and raising concentrations in the area. And we just wanted to point out that chronic REL standards are based off of long-term exposure. And so then when we compare the averages at these sites to the hourly values measured, thus far we can see that though there are a few high peaks in our community, the majority of the community data sites are averaging well below the standards, and there's not a significant amount of long-term exposure over the applicable standards. The district already started some PM2.5 sampling at Malaga Elementary back in July of 2020. Just very quickly, from July to December last year, we found that ammonium nitrate was the most common concentration during the winter seasons due to temperature inversions and high pressure systems. And then during the summer, organic carbon was the most commonly measured pollutants. And that was largely due to PM2.5 values during the summer of 2021 from the wildfires. And then we also wanted to just show a visualization of these PM2.5 speciation values. There are a few other pollutants which are measured on a semi-consistent basis, which appear at lower levels, including ammonium sulfate, soil, and black carbon. As you can see from this, the peaks of the organic carbon in the summer and during the wildfires. And as we discussed during the winter months, ammonium nitrate increases as the district is under more stable weather patterns. The district also collects samples for VOC speciation, which we send out to a third-party laboratory for analysis. This is similar to our PM2.5 speciation, where we began this back in July of 2020 at Malaga Elementary. So we have nearly 2 full years of speciation going on. As a result, we have between July and August of last year, the primary VOCs detected were acetaldehyde, methanol, ethanol, 2-propanol, and acetone. I know I'm saying all of this wrong. I'm very sorry. Of those primary VOCs, 3 of them have the RAL health risk metrics established from OEA, and the concentrations we've measured thus far have been well below the most health protective metrics for each one of those pollutants. And if you'd like to know any more, please check out our community air data website on the AB617 website, where we share our real-time monitors data and the monitoring that happens in the van, as well as weekly updates. And for some statewide information, CARB's website is under development to provide some additional information there. Are there any questions? I see a few hands raised. I tried to speed through so then we can answer any questions you might have.
Let's go with Genevieve first.
Hi, yeah, I wrote down some of the questions as we went through that. Going back to the graph that had, I think it was PM 2.5 for the different monitors and showed West Fresno and Edison being higher than the regulatory grade ones. Really happy to hear that speciation will occur, I believe at the Edison site, is what I gathered. And wondering, I also saw a similar peak for West Fresno and was wondering if we'll also be doing speciation for West Fresno.
Yeah,
And then
Jen,
also on the, sorry, and then in addition on the regulatory monitor so we can compare.
yeah, so that's a great question about West Fresno. I've been thinking the same thing. We're seeing some higher concentrations there, similar to Edison. So we're starting off in Edison. We're going to be running the speciation monitor there for some time to see if are there differences there compared to what we've been seeing like at Malaga Elementary, where it's been happening for a while. But then we can compare that against Fresno Garland, where it also happens there. Speciation happens there on a regular basis. We can compare the two to see what could be causing that difference. So that'll be one piece. And then, yeah, like your thought, maybe we could do that same sort of analysis at West Fresno, do it there and see what could be causing those differences and what we learn from that. If we see something that's really striking, that can help us kind of formulate perhaps what strategies are we using to reduce emissions. Are there different programs we can emphasize in those areas of South Central Fresno to get more emissions reductions? So we're hoping that'll reveal some things that we can take some next steps on.
Awesome. So hopefully West Fresno will be next. And then looking at the Malaga PM 2.5 speciation, seeing organic carbon super high in the summer. Can you explain to us, is organic carbon purely carbon? And so it also includes like diesel PM 2.5? Because I think the word organic perhaps throws us off.
It does. It includes mobile sources like diesel, as well as burning of organic material. So what we saw during the summer when we saw those really high numbers, of course, that was driven by wildfires during those periods of wildfires. So that really spikes up that organic carbon portion and give us those high numbers. But there are some other sources that contribute to it as well.
When you showed the graph of like dates or months, what was that timeline again? Do you think you could pull it back up?
Sure. So then we wanted to look
there
at this one.
Next one. There we go. Yeah, so it's interesting that carbon
it was the wildfire because it's the beginning of October.
Okay. Oh, that's July.
Oh.
So that's July, August, September, October. But I guess we did have a terrible fire season.
Yeah, well, the organic carbon, the green, that's going to be the wildfire stuff.
Right.
I'm more concerned about in November. In November, you start to see the elemental black carbon, which I'm assuming is the blue going up. Correct me if I'm wrong.
The lighter color blue that spikes up there in November, that's ammonium nitrate.
That's ammonium nitrate. It's tough to tell. Then you start to see the dark blue in the lens up there again, up around 20.
Oh, I see. There's two different blues.
Yes.
Yeah, that's treacherous stuff, though. That
yeah, but it's also
carbon,
not local.
Some of the most dangerous. Yeah.
Okay. And have we been able to compare this speciation with the Drummond site?
Yeah, so speciation happens at Fresno Garland. Not the Drummond site, but Garland, just
Garland.
north of the community boundary. So that's a part of the ongoing work that we're doing. That's a great point, Genevieve, comparing this against what we're seeing long-term at Fresno Garland. Is there a real striking difference between what we see here versus there versus what we might see at Edison or West Fresno? So there's some really good next analysis steps to do.
Okay, wonderful. And I sorry for taking up the time. My last question had to do about benzene that was found in the mobile van. I think that was the only toxic that was above the REL, and wondering where that was found.
I think you're on here. I think Brad said this higher level was found Jensen 99 area next to a lot of traffic, which makes sense that we'd see probably higher levels of some of these in higher trafficked areas. But I did want to note here too that the hourly average was 2.8 ppb, but we're comparing that against a chronic REL level, which is like long-term, years and years, decades. So this is a very conservative comparison here.
I see.
I think there is an hourly REL for benzene, but it's very high. It's like hundreds of ppb. Yeah.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Yeah, that's correct, John.
Okay.
I want to give Naimeen a chance to ask her question.
There's two very simple questions. Where is the West Fresno AB 617 monitor located? And the historical data that is available for the AB 617 monitors is just a PDF document. Can that be accessible through like a spreadsheet or not?
First question, the West Fresno monitor, Chai, that's at the middle school. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. It's at the middle school.
Like at Gaston Middle School?
What's that? I'm sorry. It's West Fresno Middle School.
West Fresno Middle School.
Yeah, that's the name of it.
Gee. Okay.
And then are you asking, I mean, about the data from the air monitoring van, having that in an Excel format?
No. You know, if you go to the AB 617 page where there's all the monitors, you can go to historical data by year and it has by week. But when you download that, that's a PDF. So can that be accessible like in a spreadsheet instead?
Yeah, I think we could. I know a lot of that's being pushed to the AQ View site on CARB's site as well, but maybe not all of that. I can check that with the team, and if not, maybe we can create an Excel version of that worksheet so it's more usable.
All right, other questions? We're running a bit long, which I'm fine with. So if you have to drop off, that's also fine. Other questions?
This is Megan. Is the wind data and all the MET data, the accessory besides the pollutant data, accessible too? Because I'm not finding that on your guys' website. Is that, and I didn't find it on AQView.
Oh, the meteorology?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a good question, Megan. I don't think we're pushing that to AQ View, which we probably could as a way to get people access to the metadata if they're interested in seeing that along with the pollutant data. So we can check with the CARB team, Megan, in charge of AQ View, and see if we can start pushing all that as well.
Thank you. And it might be useful on your historical database too, online. I think that's probably useful for anybody who's trying to download.
Great, thank you.
Great. Other questions?
This is Kevin, could you bring up, you probably can't see my hand because it's in that stupid light in the corner of my background.
I didn't see it.
Yanni created that. I just noticed that that's where the hand goes. Can you go back to those last two slides again real quick, please? I just have a couple of quick questions there. Pick whichever one you want to start with.
This one?
This one's fine for the first one. Yeah, so I noticed here in, using my cursor like you could actually see it, here in November, we're really seeing, and even right along, sort of the presence of ammonium sulfate. And it's pretty significant here in the fall. And it definitely contributes to the formation of PM 2.5. And yet it's not really accounted for in the PM 2.5 SIP. So I'm just wondering, you know, were we aware before this that we were seeing, you know, this, and, you know, it's a pretty significant contribution here starting in 11/11 and moving forward, and appears again there in late December. It's definitely, I would think, I mean, tell me if you think I'm wrong, but it's helping push the spikes in PM 2.5 in that period. Where do you think that's coming from, for one thing?
Yeah, no, we've noticed that too in this recent data compared to other speciation data, and hopefully it'll become more clear when we do a better comparative analysis with the Fresno Garland speciation. Like, is there something unique about what we're seeing here, creating a higher amount of ammonium sulfate? And we'll have to tie that to the sources in the area. Is there something happening that's helping push some of those November, December numbers a bit higher?
Right.
Those are good questions.
Yeah, you see it
know
down
the
in
glass
Dairyland.
plant.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
We know the glass plant is right nearby. And
I'm
one of the
sure where
largest
it's coming
sources
from. I
of
just
socks.
want to know for sure. I know
Well,
what I
that
think,
is
and
the
I
largest
know,
source of socks in the area.
yeah. So yeah, that would need to be accounted for in any SIP, I would think. So then if, and again, I don't need to talk about elemental black carbon again, just even in very small amounts, especially to children and women who are pregnant. This is even a few exposures can have disastrous consequences. If you look back at the CHAPS data that we've created, and you know, we're still monitoring diesel pollution in the area through the Children's Health and Air Pollution Study. This is one of the worst actors. But could you go back to the next slide? Back, the same one that, I think it's the next slide back. No, it's the one, there you go. So I just wondered, and thank you for already giving what the acute REL was for these at the same time. So I think it's useful to have both, so we just kind of in the future get an idea of, you know, just because there's a chronic exposure, again, if it's over the REL, that's a problem. But you know, it'd be good to know what the acute was as well, and if there are spikes along the way in any of these that that would create a problem on that day for people who have asthma, for instance. So that's something I think we'd like to know.
Yeah, I think definitely in our quarterly reports, we're working on kind of reformatting how we present that data. And that's one of the changes we want to make, is to bring more clarity to this kind of a presentation, to make it clear that seeing these hourly peaks, what is the appropriate number to compare it to give a better reference of what it could really mean for people's health. So we'll provide some more information in upcoming reports.
Thanks. And you had another graph like this, didn't you, with aldehydes and other chemicals on it? Was I mistaken?
We have this explanation. It's not a graph, but we do have something written.
Not a graph, yeah. Acetylaldehyde, methanol, ethanol, propanol, acetone, yeah. Well, there's a lot of VOCs floating around out there, though. Man. Oh yeah, I see the acetylaldehyde detected well below the level. That's good to know. And then I wondered on the propanolol, you know, what's happening there? How many acute episodes were there? Is it two?
They were all well below. They were all well below the acute. So for example, the propanol.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Were there any chronic? Was there a chronic value with that as well?
Yeah. So when we looked at this, with the exception of the 2-propanol, that we use an acute value because that was actually the more conservative value. I think what it takes into account is acute. It takes it to the oral, whereas the other one was through breathing. So so we just went ahead and put the more conservative value in here, and the more health protective value. And in this case, it was the acute. Yeah.
I'm just suggesting for all of them, maybe just have the chronics and the acutes. I think we just talked about that with the other one, just conforming, you know, it makes it a lot easier to not have to ask a question like this, save time. Okay, thank you. Good report.
Great. We are at 12:11. Are there any other questions? Isabel or Estella, do you have any comments?
No.
Great. All right. With that, do we have any volunteers to present a subcommittee update and we can get you notes at the next steering committee meeting? I don't want to pressure anybody, so
Naimeen had to hop off, so she might.
We'll ask Naimeen. So, all right. Well, I thank you all for meeting with us this morning and look forward to more. Great. Thank you, Kevin. Look for more discussion on these important issues. Everyone have a lovely lunch.
Thanks all.
Thanks.
Gracias.
Thank you. Bye.